Hello, and welcome to the podcast Journey to Ethiopia with a Story. This is Bethlehem Atfield. I apologize for not posting for so long, but I'm back now with some good news. First, drum roll please. I submitted my PhD thesis. Yes! Finally. It's been an almost 4-year journey, and I thought I would feel relieved now that it's finished, but I don't. It's kind of surreal. Another exciting piece of news is the establishment of the Ethiopian Translators Association. Huge thanks to all the committee members who put in so much effort to get it off the ground in such a short time. If you are a fellow member of this new association, and would like to contribute stories or co-host this podcast, please get in touch. Also, please send me translations from different Ethiopian languages. I would appreciate that. Today I'll read an excerpt from my translation of Adam Reta's novel, Mereq. Broth. Part 1. Alaza. The Brood of Madiba. On the eve that Addis Ababa was poised to hint at becoming a modern city, the Italians invaded and intensified this intent with concrete buildings, tarmac roads, and racism, spicing it up, as Ezra claims, with the grace of ladies torn from their families by war. 3 years later, when the invaders finally left, the city salvaged a few much-needed schools, what's left of the tarmac roads, popolare, casa inches, piazza, mercato, along with the spread of arage and prostitution. One can't pick and choose after all. In those days, the Shiromeda neighborhood featured green meadows marked by footpaths surrounded by faded red and black hills, seasonal streams, deer visiting from the nearby hills, huts enclosed by thorny endemic rose bush, pine and conifer trees, home for the priests, lay priests, farmers, and cattle markets, laundry drying on the grass fields, and alleyways scattered with hyena droppings. I was born in Addis Ababa, in this very neighborhood, dwarfed by Endodo mountains, often wet from rains, surrounded by eucalyptus trees, hazy from the constant smoke drifting from the stoves of residents, and nights filled with the sound of barking dogs and hyena calls. The surveyors of the city called this neighborhood Madiba, a coined term from Medina and Balagar, capital city and rural. Holy Mary knows whether they meant it in earnest or in derision. I heard Kashseifu say that the neighborhood is called Shiromeda because early settlers ate the soil thinking it was shiro, spicy chickpea flour. Well, if one speaks about the era of stone-turned bread, is it not fitting to talk about the era of soil-turned shiro as well? My Shiromeda homies and I boast that the beauty of our neighborhood surpasses that of Bole or the old airport area, which the surveyors favored. Which district in this city can match the lush green meadows and blooming yellow flowers in spring, the gold-hued waterfall cascading from Endodo mountains, and the delicacies we gather from the thorny bush? The number of residents in Shiromeda is increasing. Almas Gurgusum's Hotel and Tarara Cafeteria have recently opened. Along the streets, local beer shops have mushroomed alongside tailor shops, cobbler shacks, and the beautiful Ajib gas station. Wahed the vendor has started selling sugarcane sticks, walking up and down the sides of the tarmac road. Lodestone 1. In my turf, I can tame anything, even reptile. Although details of my childhood memories are sometimes patchy, I still recall them now and then. I was never allowed to leave our house, except for the rare occasion when Zahai, my nanny, escorted me to visit my grandmother and Nanu. There are events, places, and people I will never forget. There are unforgettable incidents that I can recall as vividly as they happened today. On one occasion, I managed to skip through Zahai's legs like a puppy and went gallivanting across the Shiromeda neighborhood. I saw drunkards stumbling out of Tazina Hotel. I heard music I had never heard before coming from cave-like bars. I saw kids about my age running around barefoot. I caught a glimpse of the penis of one of the boys through his thorn shorts. Later on, I became good friends with this boy, Cherenet. No matter how loudly Zahai called me, I pretended not to hear her. While I gazed at this scene in wonder, Priest Tazina passed by along with his son, who was pushing a bike. "Is that woman calling you?" the priest asked. I said, "No."
Ha ha,
He laughed. Then he said in a serious note,
you just lied to me. You better go now or you'll get her in trouble.
With my hand still in my pocket, my eyes darted between the father and the son. "Is that your bike?" I asked the son. "Yes. Do you want to ride?" "I can't." The father slapped the son's head and reprimanded.
You and your mischief. Do you want to get the kid killed?
Meanwhile, Zahai had gone to fetch my mother, who came to the road muttering under her breath. The priest looked up and greeted her.
Dena Stilling, may peace be with you, Auntie Rosa.
"How are you, Mereq?"
So, the young lad has started to venture out of his hutch, huh?
I have never been referred as a lad before. The strange word slowly took shape in my mind along with the memory of that day. "He has become unruly," she said as she grabbed my hand with reproach. "I was worried sick." I looked up at her and firmly said, "Mama, I want a bike."
It's not particularly dangerous around here, you know. There are many kids around anyway. My son Ezra is a bit older than your son. He'll look out for him if you allow him to play with them occasionally. He can also teach him how to ride a bicycle,
said the Mereq with a smile, the priest whose special role at church is songmaster. "He is still young and vulnerable, but he is glib and eager to grow fast," said my mamma.
How is Nanu, by the way? I heard she's not well. I also heard that this young man here is looking after her.
She can't do without him, yes.
And Nanu is remarkably knowledgeable, if only she had better listeners. But there's no time to meet these days. You know how time is. Never mind. We can talk about it some other time. So many things to cover. Anyway, take your son inside now. We'll discuss this later. Do let him play with Ezra sometime. You know, Ezra is a deacon and is also taking lessons to perform praise songs. I'm not saying this just because he's my son, but he is bright. If a bit naughty, he can also take him to church. Why should you be the only one who praises Holy Mary, huh?
I had been guarded against the outside world because of my mother's anxiety and my father's elitist pride thus far. Since I met Ezra and his friends, though, they helped me open my eyes and discover the world. We usually meet in the early evenings when the tarmac road is almost deserted. That gave us the freedom to ride our bikes up and down the road, fall and rise again, only to continue riding again. My legs still bear some scars, memento of those adventurous days. If I look closer to those shiny scars, I may see reflections of my childhood friends in them. There were a couple of places on the right side of the tarmac road that goes to Ndodo where young girls frequently played skipping rope, hopscotch, and knucklebones. These were the spots where we teased the girls, where we sometimes make them cry, or we end up crying. I started buying sugarcane from Wahed without asking my parents' permission. I also got good at making jokes about his singing.
Here is a sweet delight for 5 cents. It strengthens friendships, not squabbles. Go to Wahed for a joint of sugarcane steak.
I discovered there were more delightful things beyond my parents' villa at Shiromeda, beyond the soup, cheese sandwich, mutton tips and roast, the soft white injera and what was spicy broth they provided for me. When I went to bed at night, I eagerly began awaiting the new day of roving in my neighborhood. Fate seems to pull me outdoors as if by the power of a lodestone. On Sundays, I often went to Mount Ndodo with my friends Ezra, Chernet Tesfaye, Danye Kabede, Befekadu, and Aman. I learned so many new games during these occasions. Danye taught me how to juggle punched leaves with my foot. I was so enchanted with this game that in spring, dried balls of bunched leaves were everywhere in our compound. I lost many plastic balls that rolled into the valleys, lost too many buttons playing chasing games, got tackled one too many times, and got injured and scratched. There is no field in the neighborhood where we didn't play football. We'd sit at the height and reflect sun into the eyes of farmers going to market with a broken mirror. For this naughty behavior, we received a variety of curses, even from those considered highly revered. When we got tired of all this exertion, the Baba Mofo entertained us with his beautiful voice, singing Getacho Casa's nostalgic Tizita. Then the screaming contest began. Perhaps the trees used these sounds as nourishment. When you cut down a tree, if laughter escapes from their branches, if songs and merriment spill from their trunks, it would be ours. When we got bored with the outdoors, we would go into my house and play checkers and chess. And when we became fed up with that, we put on a tape and danced to Temptations, I Wish It Would Rain, Monkeys, I'm a Believer, Rolling Stones, Jumping Jack Flash, Capitol's Cool Jerk, Louis Jordan's Boogie Woogie, and Scott Joplin's Sugarcane Rag. Ezra was usually the only one who refused to dance because he was a deacon. When we got tired, we switched to playing Alley Boom, the slapping hand game. Resourceful Ezra would distract my mother with serious conversation so she wouldn't get upset with the noise. Auntie Rosa, forget their music. Shall I perform a religious song for you? She would sit to listen to his song. With a beautiful voice that surpasses any musician we knew, he would perform a religious song in the liturgical language Ge'ez. Mama wouldn't know if it was broken Ge'ez or what it meant, but it made her happy all the time. Then she would serve whatever food was prepared in the house for that day. Well, Eshi, what do you think of this special tribute to Shiromeda? If you want to hear the second part of this excerpt, please reach out to say hi in the comment box. Bye for now.